Shalom, I'm Brother Rael from Reyahnited Soul, and in this video, I'm going to discuss the opportunist who has made it their business to make profit from our people's awakening, as well as profiting from the cognitive dissonance that troubles our community. So let us nourish our soul with scripture, that we may reunite with the Most High, the Elohim of Yazrael. All scripture will be read verbatim from the King James Version Bible. Now let's get right into it. Shalom, family. Much love to you and your households. The idea of this discussion came as a small, distant thought in the back of my mind some time ago. However, as I continue to witness many of our people's social media platforms, whether it's about Black empowerment or our spiritual awakening, there's always seems to be a product or gimmick attached to it. In other words, you are being sold one thing or another, in addition to whatever message is being presented. And some of you may be aware that any salesperson worth their salt can effectively sell a product or ideology that they themselves do not necessarily believe in. And by all means, we should always support our people's businesses. However, it would do us well to know the difference between business, entertainment, and the empowerment of our people. Empowering the Black community, unapologetically and without compromise. Without compromise. This is what is required to get our people restored, that we may walk into our inheritance provided by the Most High. And for those of you who know the Most High, knows that he does not compromise, which is why we won't as a people walk into our inheritance without the Most High leading us into it. Because man, more often than not, will always seek compromise. For example, many of our people have walked away from Christianity with its brutal history of colonizing the so-called Third World, its justification of slavery, and its depiction of the European image of a white Messiah. So, instead of putting away the New Testament doctrine altogether and refocusing our attention to Torah and the covenant we have with the Most High, many of our people compromised, kept the New Testament doctrine, and merely exchanged the European image of a white Messiah to a black Messiah. Now, for better clarity, let's go ahead and get the definition of the word compromise, according to Merriam-Webster. Compromise, a way of reaching agreement in which each person or group gives up something that was wanted in order to end an argument or dispute. Something that combines the qualities of two different things. A change that makes something worse and that is not done for a good reason. Something that combines the qualities of two different things, like the Old Testament and the New Testament, for example. How so, you ask? By presenting an alternate covenant through something other than the Most High. According to Hebrews chapter 8, verse 6 of the New Testament, a new and better covenant, to be more accurate. And keeping in mind that the Most High described his new covenant in Jeremiah chapter 31, verses 31 through 34, which has not occurred yet. In some situations, a compromise may be seen as a necessary means to an end. However, our covenant that the Most High has established with only his people is not to be compromised by the imaginations of man. Now, at the moment, it seems to be a very thin line between compromising business, entertainment, and the awakening of the Black community. The lines are currently blurred between those who are fighting for Black empowerment and those who are selling the ideology of Black empowerment. The lines are blurred between those who are seeking the Most High with all their heart, soul, and might, and those who are redirecting our people away from the Most High as a business strategy. And this is done by simply repackaging the Christian doctrine that has failed our people in numerous ways for hundreds of years, which I intend on addressing this head on in this discussion. Also, for those who may be new to the channel, I use the term black, as in black community, to identify the Most High's people. Let's be very clear. The term black has nothing to do with the color of our skin. The term black is merely our current state of affairs that we as a people find ourselves in, because our history has been intentionally blacked out by the transatlantic slave trade and through centuries of miseducation, psychological deception, and abuse thereafter. And unlike the rest of the immigrants that dwell among us in this nation, the black community has no remembrance of our homeland that we can return to. Neither does our homeland reach out to lay claim to us as a people that we may return. Which is why you do not see Africans identifying themselves as black, although we share the same skin tones. Like I said, black is merely a term used for identification. It has nothing to do with the color of our skin. Our people's historical past prior to the transatlantic slave trade has been intentionally blacked out. Let's go to Psalms chapter 83 verses 2 through 5 for more clarity. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and have consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. If you continue reading, you will see the names of those nations involved in this confederacy. And although the names of those nations may be changed, their confederacy has not. Now, think about this for a moment, brothers and sisters, as I set the stage for this discussion. And I am in no way painting other ethnic communities in a bad light. I am simply pointing out a few facts. How many Mexican and Asian restaurants are in your community? They all seem to be surviving with no problem in our black communities. Now, the flip side to this thought process is, do we actually believe as a people that we can open just as many soul food restaurants in predominantly Hispanic and Asian communities? And do you feel that they will have no problem welcoming and supporting our establishments? Because the black community definitely has no problem welcoming and supporting Mexican and Asian restaurants. Just as long as the food is good, the black community have no problem supporting it. And it appears that we as a people have a naivete when it comes to treating other ethnic groups fairly, although we are treated with prejudice from these same groups. Many of you are aware that other ethnic groups' willingness to support a business goes far beyond the quality of the product or service. To them, who owns the business matters much, much more than we can ever imagine. We must understand as a people that a healthy business relationship must be founded on respect and reciprocity, where money, products, and services flow in both directions. Like many nations that import and export products with one another, without a fair and healthy flow of trade in both directions, one nation will end up becoming subservient to the other. So, where am I going with this? And what does it have to do with the title of this discussion, Side Hustling the Awakening? I simply wanted to begin this discussion with the strategic economic mindset of our people. Without an economic strategy within our community, the money will simply flow out in one direction without a return on investment. Simply put, we invest in the businesses of other ethnic communities without expecting or demanding the same in return. Now, some of you may be familiar with studies that measure in comparison how money is circulated in the various ethnic communities. And the numbers can fluctuate depending on the source of this information. However, the consensus remains consistent that the dollar in the black community circulates the least amount of time within our community. For example, the average lifespan of the dollar in a white community is said to be approximately 17 days. In the Jewish community, 19 days. In the Asian community, 28 days. Now, in the black community, just 6 hours. 6 hours in our community before it leaves. We went from circulating 2 or more weeks in other communities to just hours in the black community. And there are so many different devices used to siphon those dollars out of our economically oppressed communities. In this discussion, we will deal with just one of those devices, which are the hustlers that are preying upon the vulnerabilities of our people's awakening. Let's be very, very clear. The hustlers are doing a lot more than just siphoning dollars out of our community. They're misguiding, sowing discord, and causing distrust among our people, while at the same time siphoning those dollars. And how are they causing distrust? Think about it. When someone is scammed or taken advantage of, especially as it relates to a social movement or an organization, it causes people to lose confidence and disassociate themselves from it. And as a result, it becomes more challenging and requires more time for those who are truly doing the work to galvanize the people to progress and forward unity. Our movements to empower the black community become stagnated and ineffective because of the distrust sowed by the hustlers who are merely seeking to profit from the people's inability to achieve their desired goals of community empowerment. Simply put, the hustlers who may look like us, sound like us, and appear to be fighting with us are doing more internal damage within the community that the nations who are confederate against us are not able to accomplish from the outside. Understand, family, the ultimate hustle is to get paid from both sides of the conflict. By receiving financial donations as an alleged black community activist from those who are oppressed, in addition to receiving financial support as an agent provocateur from the oppressor. And I know that it may sound like I'm giving the hustlers way too much credit, but in actuality, they are merely pawns on the chessboard of controlled opposition. Now, for those who may not be familiar with controlled opposition, Vladimir Lenin said it like this: the best way to control the opposition is to lead it ourselves. To lead the opposition. Basically, by weakening your opponent from within, allowing for your opponent to exist, and prop it up with leaders that you choose and control. Controlled opposition. Chess, not checkers, brothers and sisters. Now, going back to our spiritual awakening, it would do us well to be able to separate that from business and entertainment. Providing a product is one thing, providing a service is another. But where do we draw the line when it comes to restoring hope and uplifting the people from 400 years of oppression and affliction? Should we allow a hustler to help the black community while at the same time profiting off the demise of our people? Should we allow a hustler to freely earn a living by receiving financial donations from an economically oppressed people who are struggling to live? I believe that these are all fair questions that we as an awakened community should be asking ourselves. Have we not learned our lesson from the church? Passing around the plate or basket for you to drop your dollars or checks in for every sermon. For the pastor's birthday. The first lady's birthday. Their wedding anniversary. the church's anniversary, the building fund, a guest speaker. The list goes on. And likewise, these hustlers who claim to be working on the behalf of the black community, or who claims to be sent by the Most High to lead his people, will find numerous ways for you to part with your dollars in support of their efforts. Although we all know YouTube is a free platform to operate, and it's a great way to get a message out to the people. But unfortunately for the black community, the hustlers' ambitions always go beyond the free platform of YouTube. Yes, indeed. They will start a ministry where the Most High will need your financial help to maintain it, as if the Most High is short on cash. No, not at all. It is the hustler who needs your cash to support his or her own project or his or her own ambitions. Then the hustlers will eventually need your financial support to start their own web page where they can give you more vital, privileged, and sensitive information without the fear of being shut down. As if YouTube have the power to actually shut down a servant of the Most High. Is this hustle sounding familiar to anyone? We must understand that hustlers are not trying to solve the problems that plague the black community. Their hustle is to fan the flames, keep it going, and capitalize on it for as long as they can. Keeping their followers in a constant state of unease and anxiety is profitable only to the hustler. It is what it is, family. There is simply no benefit to the black community until the issue is resolved. Period. Not just talking about it for years on end as the hustler's popularity, viewing audience, and donations grow. I am hoping that many of you can clearly see the serious conflict we have here with those who are willing to inject themselves into the fray of our people's oppression for their own profit. Whether it is dealing with relationships between the black man and the black woman, racism, injustice, or even spiritual matters. Solving the problem and making it go away goes against the hustler's financial interests. Let me repeat that. Solving the problem and making it go away goes against the hustler's financial interests. Because what do you think will happen to their platform when the problem is no longer a problem? What happens to their subscribers and viewers when their content is no longer a relevant issue in the black community? Better yet, what happens to their financial donations, the sole reason for their hustle? And again, these are all fair questions that we as an awakened community need to seriously examine. If not, we will simply continue going down this road of nothing getting accomplished in our community. Now, in this discussion, my main focus will be on matters regarding the Most High and His people awakening to the truth of who we are and the covenant we have with the Most High. So as long as you have hustlers profiting by disseminating misinformation in the midst of this awakening, people are going to be redirected from seeking the Most High and Him alone. Let's be very clear. Majority of the Most High's people who came out of the church are still clinging to the New Testament doctrine. And where do you think the hustlers are going to set up shop? Where majority of the money is, of course. These hustlers are simply going to fill the void where the church pastors left off and take charge of the sheep. And keeping in mind, if the pastors were able to sell the New Testament doctrine to their lost sheep and profit hundreds of thousands of dollars, a motivated hustler will make short work of it and rock our people back to sleep. There is a simple reason why the Most High is only gathering a remnant of His people. We must wrap our minds around the fact that the New Testament Messiah requires no acknowledgement or approval from the Most High, requires no confirmation from the prophets of the Most High, or requires no evidence in the Tanakh or the Old Testament scriptures that validates the claims of the New Testament doctrine. And many New Testament believers are convinced that all these requirements just mentioned were met. and not because they researched it for themselves through Scripture. They are convinced because they were simply told the requirements were met. Only those who wholly follow the Most High can see that this is highly problematic. When your focus is on the Most High and Him alone, you will begin to understand how He interacts with the people He has chosen to make a covenant with. Let's be very clear. We're not talking about the whole world. We're talking about the Most High's people. And the Most High is not going to ask His people to finance their own deliverance. The Most High is simply not going to operate through someone who is seeking financial compensation from His people. We can see through the Tanakh or Old Testament scripture that the Most High will provide for the needs of those He sends. So, for all of these social media self-proclaimed prophets, charlatans, and hustlers who have their hands out for your financial donations, we must ask the question, if the Most High did not send them, then who did? Let me repeat that. If the Most High did not send them, then who did? For example, how much money did the children of Israel have to shell out to Moshe when he led them out of Egypt? Did they have to finance Moshe's ministry? Purchase land for Moshe so he could build a palace? Provide the comforts of life so he could make it a lifelong project of delivering his people out of Egypt? Then merely pass the ministry down to his son that he may continue to deliver the people for another lifetime? No, not at all. When the children of Yasrael left Egypt, the Most High arranged it to where they spoiled the Egyptians. In other words, the Most High made the Egyptians finance their departure, according to Exodus chapter 12, verses 35 through 36. The Most High do not need His people to finance their own deliverance after 400 years of brutal captivity and being economically oppressed the entire time. The entire time. Yet, we have social media hustlers claiming that they are sent by the Most High, doing kingdom business for the Most High, and will happily accept donations year after year after year from His people. As a matter of fact, they will go live more often to give their followers more opportunities to give more of their dollars. On top of that, they may have merchandise to sell you. Not to mention that they may even ask you to go support channels of other hustlers that they are confederate with, so that you may have the privilege of financially supporting their very important work as well. Oh, and let's not forget the GoFundMe pages, where they will ask you to give money to someone who may be having a bit of trouble with the law. Does this sound familiar? Family, in this awakening, if we cannot discern a shallow hustle, how can we then have the ability to discern the depth of much weightier matters? Let me repeat that. If we cannot discern a shallow hustle, how can we then have the ability to discern the depth of much weightier matters? The bottom line is this, brothers and sisters. If you are truly seeking the Most High and are expecting to or are already receiving provisions from the Most High, you cannot afford to squander any part of those provisions by handing it over to those who are hustling and misleading our people. You can do what you will with your own money that you made from the sweat of your brow before you sought the Most High. However, when the Most High becomes your provider, it would do you well to be wise in how you expend those provisions. You must understand that the Most High's provisions are not just for you. It is for your seed as well, according to Proverbs chapter 13, verse 22. And I read, "A good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just." And that is why we are to train up our children in the way they should go, according to Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6. Brothers and sisters, the Most High's word is for our benefit. It is not just something to be recited to impress upon people. The Most High's word is not a scheme to be used as a side hustle to acquire money. And giving your provisions away to hustlers who have a talent for entertaining you with their opinions, pulling on your heartstrings, and playing on your emotions is not a good economic strategy for your households. Let's be very clear. Hustlers are not going to lead you to the Most High, although it may appear to be their intent. You may have followed hustlers for a couple of years, or maybe even several years, and you are no more closer to knowing the Most High now than you were before. And that is by design. Understand this. The very moment you seek the Most High and find Him, is the moment you will no longer need that hustler to provide you your daily dose of ear candy to feed your curiosities. Which means that you will no longer be supporting that hustler with your donations, because you are now looking to feed your spirit with the word of the Most High, and not feed your curiosities with doomsday gossip and idolatrous fantasies. Now, I know some of you are probably saying, come on, Brother Rael. There's nothing wrong with receiving donations when you are spending your time studying the word and creating content to help the peoples. It's only right to pay them for their time and efforts. Okay? Now, what I will say to you is this. When dealing with the Most High's servants, everything does not require the transaction of money. So, let's finally go to the scriptures and see how one of our biblical ancestors dealt with someone trying to side hustle the work of the Most High's servant. That's right. Hustlers have been around for a long time. Let's observe the transaction between the prophet Elisha and Naaman, the captain of the host of the king of Assyria. Now, Naaman was a mighty man of valor, but a leper. And he sought out Elisha that he may recover from his leprous condition. And once recovered, Naaman actually returned to offer Elisha some form of reward or blessing for what he had done. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 5, verses 15 through 16. And I read, And he returned to the man of God, he and all his company, and came and stood before him. And he said, Behold, now I know that there is no God in all the earth but in Israel. Now therefore I pray thee, take a blessing of thy servant. But he said, As the Lord liveth, before whom I stand, I will receive none. And he urged him to take it, but he refused. First and foremost, we saw that Naaman gave the glory to the Most High, where it belonged. Then we see here that Naaman not only offered, but urged Elisha to receive his blessing. But Elisha simply refused, according to verse 16. All praise to the Most High Yah. Now fast forward to the side hustle in question by Gehazi, the servant of Elisha. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 5, verses 20 through 22. And I read, But Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, said, Behold, my master hath spared Naaman, the Syrian, and not receiving at his hands that which he brought. But as the Lord liveth, I will run after him, and take somewhat of him. So Gehazi followed after Naaman. And when Naaman saw him running after him, he lighted down from the chariot to meet him, and said, Is all well? And he said, All is well. My master hath sent me, saying, Behold, even now there be come to me from Mount Ephraim 2 young men of the sons of the prophets. Give them, I pray thee, a talent of silver and 2 changes of garments. Now, as you can see in verse 20, Gehazi stated, I will run after him. Him being Naaman. The hustle was real, brothers and sisters. Gehazi was not going to pass up an opportunity to get paid. We must understand that money will always bring out the true nature of a hustler. and rarely do they pass up the opportunity to acquire some form of profit or gain, especially at the expense of someone else. They just have to have it, whether by hook or crook, as we seen here with Gehazi. However, he made a grave error when he underestimated Elisha's abilities. Now, fast forward to the prophet Elisha checking Gehazi on his side hustle. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 5, verses 25 through 27, and I read. But he went in and stood before his master, and Elisha said unto him, Whence comest thou, Gehazi? And he said, Thy servant went no whither. And he said unto him, Went not my heart with thee, when the man turned again from his chariot to meet thee? Is it a time to receive money, and to receive garments, and olive yards, and vineyards, and sheep, and oxen, and men servants, and maid servants? The leprosy therefore of Naaman shall cleave unto thee, and unto thy seed forever. And he went out from his presence as a leper, as white as snow. I appreciate how Elisha wasted no time going back and forth with it, and just proceeded to administer Gehazi's retribution in good old Tanakh or Old Testament fashion. Not only did he get the corrupt Gehazi up out of his presence with a quickness, he marked him with the very thing that Naaman wanted very badly to get rid of. That's right, brothers and sisters. Elisha marked Gehazi and his seed forever. Now that's deep. We can go into a whole separate discussion with verse 27 alone. Yes, indeed. But I will leave it at that for now. With that said, it is high time that we thin the herd of these hustlers preying upon our people's awakening. And this could be as simple as keeping your money where it belongs, out of the hands of the hustlers and in your households, investing your money and receiving a good return on your investment, investing and supporting businesses in your local communities, and passing wealth down for your children. Understand, family, it is one thing to pay someone for entertaining you, but let's be very clear. The Most High is not trying to entertain his people while they are scattered to the four corners of the earth and being afflicted daily. Nor does he send his people servants that needs to be cashed apped every time they decide to go live on social media, and to continuously interrupt their very important message to the black community in order to thank those who are throwing dollar bills their way, or continuously stopping their message to demand that you hit the like button, the bell icon, and share the video to improve their social media algorithm. Think about it, family. When you interrupt something, that means something of far greater importance just occurred that requires addressing. Let me repeat that. When you interrupt something, that means something of far greater importance just occurred that requires addressing. Now to the hustler, the money is by far of greater importance, which is why it's important for he or she to continuously interrupt their message to thank each person individually who gave their money. A little discernment should tell us that such individuals are motivated and led by money and vanity, not by the Most High. So, as for me, bringing this truth is not a side hustle by any stretch of the imagination. I actually take offense to the mere thought of it. I take it as a special privilege and an honor to be able to offer something of value to our people in these troubling times, and not asking for anything from them in return, because the Most High provides my needs. I am not seeking donations, nor do I have a product to sell you. Neither will I dilute my content by bringing you the latest celebrity gossip or doomsday predictions in order to increase my viewers. Some of you may have even noticed that in my discussions, I do not ask for you to hit the like button share, or subscribe, which costs you nothing, of course. I will ask nothing of you but to love the Most High with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might, as we are instructed to do according to Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5. I may also ask that you show love and patience to your brothers and sisters who are lost and caught up in the land of our captivity. Now, if you do like, share, or subscribe, much love to you. I greatly appreciate your feedback. Whether this channel will be great or small is the will of the Most High and Him alone. Not by my will, desire, or ambitions, but by the Most High's will. Let it be done. In conclusion, we can no longer underestimate the hustlers who are operating in our midst. Now, some hustlers can be sophisticated, articulate, and charismatic, as we saw with preachers in the mega churches, and others not so much. But it is best to err on the side of caution and keep people such as these from profiting at the expense of our community's demise. And by all means, you may listen to the hustlers if that is your cup of tea. Or perhaps you prefer to monitor the content that they're disseminating into the community. Whatever the case may be, it would do our community good to go ahead and just cut them off financially and separate the hustlers from those who truly have at heart the courage and integrity to empower our community. Go ahead and give your bank account a break from financially supporting those hustlers that you have been following for years on end. We can surely allow our dollars to circulate within our communities for longer than 6 hours by using financial discipline, investing our money wisely, investing our attention in our communities, and investing in our children, that we may pass down wealth to them and their children. Instead of consume, spend, we invest. You don't have to start off with a lot. However, the money you do have should have purpose. It should work for you instead of you for it. And this can be accomplished by seeking the Most High, worshiping the Most High, trusting in Him, and receiving His provisions, protection, and wisdom. All praise to the Most High Yah. With that being said, always keep your trust in the Most High. Love Him with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. See to it that your household is in line with the word of the Most High as best you can. I thank you for taking the time to watch. Again, I am Rael, your reunited soul brother. And with that, I say to you, Shalom.